Yeah, well, unfortunately, ignorant stereotypes can paint Aboriginal people as unemployable, lazy and alcoholic. A lot of these particular attributes in our community come through the intergenerational traumas created by colonial policies of the past. Simon Wonga, there's a suburb in Melbourne named Wonga Park, named after him. He called the last tribal gathering at Warrandyte in the early 1850s. Would have been a tough call. He called an end of thousands of years of cultural tradition. Wasn't something he wanted to do, something he had to do, because resources and availability of country, or access to country, including one important resource, one behind us, the water, was fenced off. So he called the last gathering and then tried to adapt our people into the economy of the gold rush. We weren't allowed to. We ended up on the Coranderrk reservation in Healesville. That was a successful mission or reservation. We were successful in agriculture, we were self-sustainable, we set up our own schooling systems. In 1872, we won awards for best quality of hops and agricultural products. We were successful at adapting to the colonial way of living. If you can't move through country following the food resources because someone's fenced it off and call it theirs, you have to learn to grow your own food through an agricultural process. There was such great jealousy from other farmers around the Yarra Valley at the time, trying to say that we are subhuman and we can't even look after the land in that way or produce from it, that they were the ones that wanted the land. But in the early days, it was a place where we could live in safety because Aboriginal people weren't welcome in the colonial towns. We lived on the fringes and were begging for a survival. That is no way for the people to live. So Coranderrk was probably the most successful reservation in this country. Just under 5,000 acres, where the township of Healesville is, was all of Coranderrk reservation. Slowly cut up over time and handed back to the sanctuary, to the township, and eventually to the soldier settlements after World War I. Even Aboriginal soldiers who fought in that war were not recognised and never received any land back. And a lot of them weren't considered, if they survived into the 1960s, they weren't considered human beings until then either, but still fought for their country. One of our great elders of the past, William Barak, he was the first human rights fighter in this country. Just an example. He didn't muck around, William. He knew that he was being, and his people were being treated lesser than human and unfairly. He was an educated man. He had a Christian connection as well, and he learned how to read and write. He could not earn a wage because he was not considered a human being. So he walked from Healesville, where Coranderrk Reservation is, to Melbourne, straight to the governor, straight to the premier, became personal friends with them. And the first Royal Commission in this country was set up through William's deputations to these government authorities. His frustration at the end was, I've done everything they've asked, why are they still taking my family? Why are we being treated like criminals when we've done nothing wrong? See, William's a big story, but his deputations to government allowed the continuation of Coranderrk. That's why Barak and the others fought so hard for it. It was a protection place. It didn't turn into that, as people were forcibly removed. But the government gazetted Coranderrk just after they took the kids away. So the land was handed to the people, but the families were removed. The frustration was, well, we've got the land, but our kids are gone. Our workforce is gone. The only people left are 60 years and over. They can't work the agriculture. That's the retirement, so all my old people would have died in sadness and frustration, and it gets to me. It does. So, But the policies of the past to eradicate Aboriginal people out of this state, the 1886 Protection Act, as they called it, basically removed families, removed children, destroyed Coranderrk's workforce, and Coranderrk was only left to the old people who couldn't work the place. Eventually it closed down. And it wasn't until 44 years after it closed that we actually became citizens of this country when we were taken off the Flora and Fauna Act.